Hi guys, I thought I'd come back again with another quick video. I've put makeup on, that means I'm in business. I said that I was gonna, or my next video was gonna be me obviously talking about my career so far as a biomedical scientist. So yeah, how I started. So I obviously got my GCSEs, so I did really well in my GCSEs. I didn't actually do that great at my A levels or as well as I wanted to. Got the grades well enough to get into biomedical science. Anyway, so I got my degree at Cardiff Metropolitan University. So guys, again, I don't know what was happening in my life after that, but I got a 2-2, and apparently I was 1 mark or 1% or something like that off a 2-1. So yeah, so that's why I got at uni. And anyway, I wasn't really that fussed on being doing biomedical science post uni. So I did my degree, so that was a 3-year course. I didn't do the sandwich year. So a sandwich year is when you do a year placement. So instead of your course being 3 years, it's now 4 years because you're taking a year out to actually work in a lab and get some experience. And in that year, you're doing your registration portfolio, which is what you need to get registered with the HCPC and also the Institute of Biomedical Science. So I'll talk all about all of this later on. But anyway, so I did my 3-year degree. Wasn't really thinking, oh, I want to be a biomedical scientist after this. Didn't really know what I was doing. But even before I graduated, I managed to get the graduate scheme with Go Wales as a lab scientist with a nutritional supplements company, which basically they made probiotics. So I did that for, I think it was 6 months. But I started having car issues because basically I lived in Cardiff and I had to commute all the way to Port Talbot to this job. So anyway, my car, my cheap Fiat at the time, big up to you. Actually no, that's a lie, that car was trash. So yeah, so my car broke down after like 5-6 months or whatever, so I wasn't able to get to work. So guys, like I was having car issues from like halfway through this job that I had at the time. And I remember there'll be times where my housemates were still going out. Like they were still going out every single night on a weeknight. They would invite me out. I'm like, guys, listen, I've got to get to work tomorrow, so I couldn't go out. So anyway, so when my car broke down, I remember I used to have to wake up at like 5 or 4:30 or something so I can make I think it was a 6 o'clock or 6:15 train to Port Talbot, which took about, I can't remember how long it took, but anyway, it was early. So I took the train to travel all the way to Port Talbot, and then when I got to Port Talbot, I had to walk for 20 minutes or 20 minutes, half an hour to get to the place that I worked. So that's what I did. So I did that for 6 months. Then anyway, my car broke down. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just gonna go back home. So I moved back home to live with my mother, and I got a job as a medical lab assistant. So this is a band 2 post. You're working in a lab, and basically what you're doing is doing all the pre-analytical stuff, helping out the biomedical scientists in order for them to carry out their job on a day-to-day basis. So this might be stocking up, registering in samples, receiving samples, booking in samples, sort of other clerical, keeping the place tidy sort of things. So that's what I did. So I work as a medical lab assistant for 6 months, and I think it's in that time, after 6 months, I was like, okay, yeah, I want to be a biomedical scientist. I can't do this. I've got a degree. Why am I doing this? But I know that me having a little bit of that experience was helpful because, again, I'll be dropping gems later, but you need to have lab experience. And it's funny because they ain't willing to give you the experience, but they want you to have it when you apply for a job. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so if you can get lab experience, you're on the right track. So in that, I was like, okay, so I want to be a biomedical scientist now. I've got a degree. I also want to get paid that little bit more and actually be doing stuff that I kind of studied, So I was like, okay, so one of my friends, big up Duncan, he mentioned that down in the South Coast in Dorset was an associate practitioner job going, which I thought I could, in that role, be able to do my registration portfolio, which at the time I didn't have, but I needed to register with the HCPC, which is the Health and Care Professions Council, so the HCPC, and also to sort of get signed up with the Institute of Biomedical Science. So I didn't have that registration portfolio. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take this job. work as an associate practitioner. So while I'm doing that, getting paid, but also at the same time doing my registration portfolio. So that's what I did. I applied for the job, got the job, and yeah, so I was like, yeah, well excited, like I'm gonna do my registration portfolio, radi da da. I felt like for me personally, me doing my registration portfolio wasn't moving quick enough, and I was just like, okay, I really just want to do this year. So after 6 months, I actually left that job, and I was lucky to get a trainee biomedical science position at the Toxoplasma reference unit in Swansea, which is where I did my registration portfolio. But guys, before I even got to Swansea, before I even got to this reference unit, I applied for so many jobs to try and get a trainee position to be a biomedical scientist. So one thing I'm going to say about this degree is that, yeah, it's possible. You can be a biomedical scientist, no problem. It's just you've got to be willing to, one, keep trying, two, look for the jobs, and you got to remember that it's not always going to happen straight away. You're not going to get the first job. If you do get the first job that you apply for, good for you, but you're not going to get the first job that you apply for. Like, I went for so many interviews. So I was living in like Dorset at the time. I remember I had one interview in Middlesbrough, guys, that is far. Anyways, went for the interview, even asked to see the lab before my interview, you know, to look good, to show my interest that I really want the job, I didn't get it. So that whole trip, I don't even know how many hours it was that I traveled. It was long. Either way, I didn't get the job. Cool. I'm just saying this because basically you need to remember that you'll be jumping hurdles every time. You're going to apply for so many jobs before you actually get a job, but at the end of the day, you got to remember it's experience. You're hopefully getting better at interviews. You're remembering the questions that they ask you, that in another interview you're going to answer, you're going to know the answer to, and you feel more confident in what to expect in an interview. So I got the job as a trainee biomedical scientist at the Toxoplasma reference unit. It's getting a bit dark, so I need to hurry up. Again, I moved from Dorset and I went to Swansea, and I was there for 6 months. But the reason I managed to do my registration portfolio in 6 months is because I was dedicated. Like, I wanted to leave Swansea so bad because I was not enjoying it. I didn't know anyone, didn't have any friends in Swansea. Obviously I had friends in Cardiff. So night and day, I'd be working on my registration portfolio. Managed to do that in 6 months, completed it, and I was able to then get my certificate of competence, which enabled me to register with the Health and Care Professions Council as a registered biomedical scientist. So biomedical science as a career, or to call yourself a biomedical scientist, you have to be registered with the Health and Care Professions Council. It is a protected title. If you look on the Health and Care Professions Council, it will tell you what professions they actually regulate. And I think it's about 15 professions that are protected titles, that you can't actually use that title until you're registered with them, you're qualified, registered with them, and then you can legally call yourself that. So yeah, so I got that, and I managed to register with them, and then I was lucky enough to be able to get a job back, because there was a band 5 position going at my old workplace in Dorset. So I managed to apply for that. I got the job, and yeah, so I moved back there. Then a few months later, after I qualified as a registered biomedical scientist, I started working on my specialist portfolio. So your specialist portfolio is a more specialized training in the discipline that you're working in. So for me, it was microbiology. So I decided to do that because with a specialist portfolio, it enables you to work at a band 6 level, and also you can be a specialist portfolio, which means you can be a specialist biomedical scientist, which does mean that you can specialize in one aspect of your discipline if you want to, and I think you will be expected to do that, have more responsibility as a specialist biomedical scientist. So yeah, anyway, so I applied for that a few months after I qualified. So I think I got it in, if I remember correctly, I got it in February 2017. So that was February. So 4 or 5 months, could have been 6, could have been 7 months. Anyway, 4 or 5 months after I was qualified as a BMS, and I started working on that. And I'm not gonna lie, for the first year I didn't actually touch my specialist portfolio. I could have completed it a lot sooner than I actually ended up completing it. But yeah, I actually completed that this year in May. this year, so 2020 in May. Yeah, it was May that I completed it. So it took me 3 years as a whole, basically 3 years as a whole. You can do it in 2 years, but when you're doing your specialist portfolio, you are basically getting more specialized in all aspects of your discipline. So it's a bit more like there's more into it than just your generic registration portfolio. So with your specialist portfolio, you really have to understand your role, um, the theory of the things that you do, the tests that you do, understand, sort of like basically have background knowledge of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis as a biomedical scientist, more in depth as well, because one of the other things that you will be expected to do as a band 6 potentially is authorizing results. So yeah, I think it's important that you understand your role. You have to read around the subject a lot. Obviously you're doing on the job training, certain things you'll encounter as you're on the job, but yeah, you'll be set questions by your training officer, hopefully, that you then have to answer, do some research on. Then you also have to gather your own evidence to satisfy what the IBMS want from you as a specialist biomedical scientist. So excuse me. So yeah, I did that and I finished in May. I think it was May or June, one of them months, 2020. So yeah, that took me 3 years from the time that I actually got my specialist portfolio reference book. So then I worked for a little bit, just, but then in the back of my mind I had this locum idea. Video number 3, I'll talk about locum. Yes, I had this locum idea. So I've actually left now. I am now a locum biomedical scientist, but I'll talk about that in another video. Hi guys, sorry I got interrupted, so I'm gonna have to make this real quick because it's getting a bit dark outside and this video might end up being like too dark. So what was I saying? Okay, so this is when I'm gonna start dropping gems, yeah? So the first thing I wanna say, I'm just gonna start again from what I said before because I've completely forgotten now. But the first thing I wanna say is if you're thinking about a biomedical science degree or being a biomedical scientist in the future, guys, number one, make sure your course, your training, whatever it is you're doing to lead up to being a biomedical scientist is accredited by the Institute of Biomedical Science. I beg, because all you're doing is creating more work for yourself post-graduation, post your training. It won't be accredited, it won't be seen by the Institute of Biomedical Science as having covered. Basically they need to accredit it to say that it's sufficient for the training that is needed to become a biomedical scientist. So if it's not accredited, you have to then, for example, do more training, or if you've got a degree, do top-ups to meet the requirements of the Institute of Biomedical Science. So rule number 1, make sure your degree is accredited. Make sure it's accredited because yeah, it's long. I know people who have masters then want to be a biomedical scientist or think about applying to be a biomedical scientist after their masters, and they can't because their degree, their master's degree and probably their undergraduate degree isn't accredited. So yeah, they're working now as basically starting from scratch as an MLA, for example, when obviously they've got all this training, all this education, but they can't actually register as a biomedical science, and they haven't got the lab experience either, so they're starting from scratch, which is long. So just make sure your degree is accredited. That's rule number 1. Actually, before I move on, I just want to say, like, I know we're going through some weird times right now. We're still in a pandemic. I know students who are about to start uni have just got their GCSEs, have just got their university degrees based on whatever the government decided to do. Might be struggling to get into the unis that they want to, or yeah, it's a bit of a weird situation. But what I'm trying to say from a biomedical science perspective is, if you're really serious about being a biomedical scientist, you know that you want to be one, but you don't necessarily get in this year, don't be disheartened, because if anything, this might work in your favor. Make sure that in that year you gain as much lab experience as you can. Apply as an MLA, apply as an associate practitioner, apply as healthcare support worker or biomedical science support worker. Guys, just get that lab experience. You thank me later. Thank me later when you get that experience, okay? Remember I told you. But yeah, they always want people to have experience. It looks good if you've got experience. It's easier for you to get these interviews, get these jobs. But yeah, just make sure you get lab experience. But I wish everyone's trying to get into uni. and get their grades, etc. I wish you all the best of luck. I know it's a weird time, it sucks, but good luck, guys. But don't be disheartened if you don't get in. It's not the end of the world. It's really not. It's really, really not. Trust me. And to be fair, they always say everything happens for a reason, right? Everything happens for a reason, right? So yeah, don't be disheartened. It all works out in the end. It really does. But you just have to just be hardworking, put in the time, put in the effort, and you'll be fine. Yeah, so the first one I always say is make sure your degree is accredited. So routes into it. So MLA. So I started off as an MLA. I was a lab scientist, then I was an MLA. I became an associate practitioner, which is a band 4. Managed to get a trainee biomedical science position, which are not easy to get. Biomedical science is actually quite competitive. Nobody tells you this. Nobody actually tells you this, but it's actually quite competitive. It ain't fun. But just be willing, be hardworking, find ways to get in, and it's possible. It's not impossible at all. Yeah, so I worked my way up from an MLA to an associate practitioner to a trainee biomedical scientist and then to a biomedical scientist. My degree was accredited, so I didn't have to do any top-ups. I wasn't actually sure I wanted to be a biomedical scientist, so I didn't actually go into working as an MLA or into being a biomedical scientist straight away. I worked as something else for a little bit, a lab scientist, and then that's when I decided after that I wanted to be a biomedical scientist. But I've already said this, so I'm repeating myself, so sorry about that. Yeah, so that's one route that you can do it. You have to do, if you do the 3-year, okay, MLA is route 1, but obviously the traditional route is you go to uni, you do your biomedical science degree, you do your registration portfolio, and then you register with the HCPC. So that's the route, basically a little bit of the route that I took. So that's one route. So MLA, work your way up, do a degree and follow that through. You can also do a sandwich year degree, which is a 4-year degree where for the first 2 years you're at uni doing your degree as you normally would, again accredited. The third year of that degree, the third year of that degree, you are on a placement in a hospital. So in that year you're working in a hospital, gaining experience, but you're also completing your registration portfolio, which is what you need to gain your certificate. Hey, African coming out right now. You gain your certificate of competence, which you can use to register with HCPC. So that's in your 3rd year of that degree. Then in your 4th year you go back to complete your degree. You can also there's something else that organizations do. So I know Public Health England do this, so look up on the website. They do what they're called apprenticeships. So you can be working as an associate practitioner, so you're getting paid to work, but you're an associate practitioner. It's based on apprenticeship. You're learning on the job while doing your registration portfolio to then get a level 6, which is a degree equivalent, which then allows you to then work as a biomedical scientist afterwards. Again, this is another competitive way of doing it. I think there's only a few places when you do actually get in, when you do actually apply, there's only a few places that are advertised. So you have to search for them, look for them. It's no harm in trying. And there's also the scientist training program, which is the STP program, which is a 3-year course in which you are working at band 6 level, while at the same time at the end of it you'll get your master's degree. So you're working as a band 6, you're learning on the job, and then the university that is in collaboration with is also accredited. So, but at the end of it you'll have a master's, and then you can also work as a clinical scientist. So you're basically like, I don't want to say consultant as such, but you sort of like release medical results, etc, etc. So it's something similar to that. But yeah, just make sure you look that up. It is also very, very competitive. There's only, I think it's just a few unis that do it. There's different routes into entry into that. You can do direct route, which is obviously you have to have I think you have to have a master's or something, some sort of postgraduate degree. You need to have a 2-1, and yeah, it's hella competitive, and I think only a few people also get into that from hundreds who apply. So that's another competitive route. Sorry, I might be missing some points here and I'm really sorry, but there is information online. Just look it up. If anyone's got any questions, I just drop them down and I will try and reply to them if I know the answer to it. Yeah, so there's that route. So that's the scientist training program, which to be fair, I would have loved to do had I known about it, and also had I got the grades for it. I didn't, but also I'm quite happy where I am right now, so I'm straight chilling. So that's one route. You can also do the practitioner training program, which is a 3-year course as well. But at the end of it, I think you can register as a biomedical scientist. So you're working while you're doing this degree. So your summer holidays, you are doing your work basically, because you're working as, oh, excuse me, you're working at the same time as doing this course. So it will take a lot of time. Like, it will take a lot of time, a lot of your time, a lot of discipline, a lot of getting your head down and getting it done, because ain't nobody going to be kicking you up the ass. You got to do it yourself. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but at the end of it, once you're registered, once you're a biomedical scientist, I feel like it's worth it. So that's another route that you can do. Again, competitive, and a few people do get it. And I think with that one, you am I right in thinking that I'm sorry guys, I again haven't got my notes. That's not the route that I took, but you get to pick 2 disciplines that you want to do, and in those 3 years, or a year or 2 of those years, you get to rotate around those 2 disciplines, and then in the 2nd and 3rd year maybe you specialize in the field that you want, but you might not necessarily get your first choice, and so you might get your second choice, which you might just put down because you just had to pick something. But if you don't get your first and then you get your second and you're not happy, some people apparently do drop out, and then if you drop out, it's been a waste of time. But yeah, just make sure you pick the things that you want to do and specialize in. But yeah, that's worth looking up as well, because this is stuff people don't tell you. I feel like I've heard about these options as I've been working as a biomedical scientist, probably in like the last 2 weeks. So yeah, so people don't really tell you these things, so just look it up. There's lots of routes into it. Other routes obviously is working as, I don't know, you could be working as a forensic scientist, and all you have to do then, you've obviously got either a biological or biology degree or some sort of science degree. You'd have to do top-ups to meet the requirements of the IBMS, to then do your registration portfolio, then register as a biomedical scientist after that. Another route, I'm probably forgetting something. I'm definitely forgetting something. If there is anything I've forgotten, guys, write them down for everybody else to see in the comment section. That way we can all share ways that we all know that some people might not know of. Let's share, because I feel like a lot of this stuff you'll only hear about when you're actually on the job. They don't even tell you this at uni. So I don't know about that, but I just thought I'd share what I know, what I've heard, what I've seen. What else am I forgetting? Am I forgetting anything else? Yeah, I can't really think of anything, but if there is anything, I will drop it down in the comments. But if anybody wants me to do another video on anything specific, let me know. But I think this is where I'm going to end this video, and yeah, if there's anything I've missed, let me know. And then yeah, I hope I've covered everything. This was just a quick thing, like I was just like, it's in my mind, I'm gonna do it today. I'm doing it today, otherwise I'm just not gonna be able to do it. So yes, good luck guys. Any questions, get to me and I will get back to you. And yeah, I think the next video would be me talking about being a locum for anyone who's interested. But yeah, see you on the flip side. See you on my next video, guys. See you later.